Morning, guys. It's Glacial Shield coming to you today. I am joined by Aegis, and I am Winter. Today, we're going to discuss a band that I have a growing interest in, and we're going to react to one of their most famous songs. The band itself is Blind Guardian, a German metal band that sings predominantly in English, but sometimes they switch into other languages, and they're known for their more fantastical elements in their music, which I would describe as closer to a power metal type sound, but that might be wrong. The song we're going to listen to today is And Then There Was Silence, which is probably their most famous song, but it's also famous for the right reasons. It's not a radio friendly song, it's not a light song that's extremely repetitive. It is a masterfully crafted, fantasy based song that tells the story of the fall of Troy. Now, Aegis, do you know anything about the fall of Troy besides maybe the movie Troy?
Uh, that would probably be the extent of my memory on and knowledge. I do remember there being probably readings for English in high school from mythology based on Troy and stuff, so maybe lightly based on that, but is the song based on Troy, the fall?
Yeah, it is based on the fall of Troy. And what you're probably thinking of is you might have been forced to read the Iliad, or the other one was called. There was two books. The one was Homer, which was the Iliad, and then there was the Odyssey.
Yeah,
Odyssey
I
was
think it was the
one of
Odyssey,
these.
yeah.
Yeah, Odyssey is set after the fall of Troy. So this song, and the reason why I asked you about the movie is the movie actually didn't really have this character in it. This entire song is told from the point of view of Cassandra. And Cassandra was a very beautiful woman in Troy, the daughter of the king, and she was hit on by one of the gods.
Zeus,
And
probably.
she, no, it wasn't Zeus, or I don't think it was Zeus. It's been a while since I've read the actual stories behind it, but she was hit on by one of the gods. She rejected him, um, and the gods, as they're known to do or want to do, didn't react well. So she was cursed with the all-seeing eye, always knowing the future, but never to be believed by anybody if she tried to tell them. So this
Hmm.
song is told as a vision from Cassandra about the future of Troy and her desperately trying to warn the people around her what not to do to prevent the fall of Troy, but they won't hear her. There's actually another song by Blind Guardian called Under the Ice, which is set after the fall of Troy, that tells the story of Cassandra's death tied in with the prelude or prequel story of the army waiting to get to Troy and not being able to get there because the winds turn against them. So they actually have two songs about the story. We might listen to Under the Ice at some point. It's a beautiful song. It's much more of a ballad than this one, but it's also very tragic because in order to get to Troy, the king sacrificed his daughter to get the favorable winds, and it's tied in with the death of Cassandra by drowning in the storm after the fall of Troy. And it's told almost like the tragedy of this is how people who don't deserve it die to make kings happy.
Okay, general question. So do you remember Dragon
Right.
Force back when Guitar Hero 3 was really big? Are they
Yes.
considered power metal?
Yeah, so they would be power metal, and that's why I think I'm terming Blind Guardian wrong. They are power metal, and they have there's a few other things that they get called, but I'm blanking on them right now, as you know I tend to do.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Classic.
yeah, they are power metal, and there's also like high fantasy metal, and they're like ballad metal. They've released an entire album that was choir led. Would that be the right way to say it? It was like
Or
a 150 piece
like orchestral,
orchestra,
maybe? Hmm.
orchestral music. There we go. And it was called um, Stories from the Twilight Realm, the Dark Realm,
Hmm.
the Darklands. And it was, yeah, it was entirely, I think it was a 150 piece orchestra for every song playing in the background. So
Wow.
they're known for being very experimental. All right, I've talked too long. Are you ready to try the song out?
Let's get busy.
All right, hit it.
Okay, already this is sounding a lot more, maybe not technical, but more complicated and interesting than Dragon Force. I know you might not think that they're not the same, but they both bands do tell a story, and both bands are technical, but Blind Guardian seems to be doing it in a much more interesting way.
What
Like,
do you think of the lyrics?
I mean, it sounds like they're just literally walking through the build up to the point before they, breach and arrive at Troy. So that's cool. Um, I'm trying to listen also more so to the music because I have a background in, guitar and music theory. I haven't played guitar in a number of years, but it's something that I do want to get back into. But I've always had an affinity for my first couple of passes through a song to listen to the music and see, I guess, just the general feel that it gives me when I listen to the song, see if it kind of goes along with the theme.
Right. So okay, so I don't have that kind of a background in music. Of course, I do know this song is very technical. I just wanted to, or I hope that you would pick up on a few minor lyrics throughout the intro. Um, the line about he carries along, or from a distant place, he's on his way, is talking about Paris. He's coming back with Helena from
Rome?
I'm going to say Greece. No, he's from Greece. Um, one of the Greek kings, and I forget which city it is. But
Oh,
basically,
yep.
Paris made a deal with three goddesses in almost like a prelude to the fall of Troy that he would pick the most beautiful of the one of the three of them, and one goddess offered him power. One of them offered him wealth, and the third one offered him true love. And he picked true love, and he was given the love of the most beautiful woman on the planet, which was the queen of a king. And I'm going to say it's in Greece, even though someone in the comment section rip me to shreds, but it's a Greek. Um, as for Rome, Rome doesn't actually exist in the time of Troy. Uh, in the fictional stories of the world, Troy's fall led to the birth of Rome.
Okay.
Because the surviving Trojans were said to have been the original Romans, which is why the line "the revenge will be taken from Rome" by Rome
Hmm.
is after the story of Troy. Rome will eventually take revenge for what happened.
Interesting. Also, I'm just thinking about the
Yep.
movie Troy, and so Orlando Bloom, he comes back to Troy with Helen, and Helen is the wife of the guy who then challenges uh, Paris to one-on-one combat, and then he bitches out, and then Eric Bana tags in and kills him. Right?
Yes, that's Hector, and
Yeah.
Hector will be part of this story as well. It does interject somewhat into that part of the story that you're aware of, but this part of the song is very much Cassandra's point of view, just saying, "Look, Paris is coming. It's going to spell out death for all of us if you let him come back."
Yep. Totally.
Okay,
So,
let's hit
just
play.
another general question:
Oh,
why did they omit Cassandra from the movie, in your opinion?
she's one of those characters that in writing, she adds a lot of depth to the story and she adds a lot of nuance. I could see it as when you're trying to make a more grounded version of a movie,
Yeah.
like Troy was more grounded. It's hard to have a character that's literally cursed by the gods to never be listened to by any man.
It
Now,
also
could they
makes
have
the movie
put
boring because she can be like an exposition dump, and that's boring for anybody who's watching the movie because it's better to see than to be told what's going to happen.
right? So there's a few reasons. I do think they could have just made her very wise and make her realize what was happening, and it still could have tied her in properly. But that's okay. I mean, most movies don't have time to tie in every character. And let's be honest, Troy really was told as a male dominated movie when the original story of Troy was not entirely male dominated.
Right.
Um, there were female stories involved. Now, of course, they weren't really warriors, but their stories were told from a much more their intelligence and their logic versus their sheer brutality, which was, in my opinion, part of the story of Troy. The will of men and the stubbornness of men fails even as the logic and intelligence of the women around them is ignored. But that's fine. The movie didn't go that route. It's just the way it is, right?
Yeah, true. Okay,
All right.
moving on.
pause. So that was Hector killing Achilles' cousin. Orion's hound.
Ah,
Orion's hound was Achilles' shield that was famously used to identify him in battle.
okay. I remember that scene in the movie
So,
too. Yeah, that's right.
so Achilles was known for his bravery, but also his arrogance. Um, in the original Iliad, his choices were sort of made for the same reasons as in the movie, less so for love than the movie portrays, but it's still part of it. And then we all know what happens. His cousin fights Hector. Um, his cousin dies. Troy celebrates because they think that the great monster's dead. Turns out he's not. But then the Trojans are also like, well, we still don't regret it because he chose to fight. He chose to die. It's not our fault.
Yep,
Obviously, Achilles is not going to see it that way, right?
100%.
So, okay, just wanted to point that out.
So, if I back up here just so I can see the lyrics on screen,
Right.
hear my voice. That sounds like it's coming from Cassandra and they're not listening to her, to just trying to heed her warnings, right?
Yep. So this entire story is her begging her dad to listen, that she knows what's going to happen and she's telling him what's going to happen.
Right. Hmm. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
cool beans. Let's go. One thing I want to say, it'll be interesting to see, or I guess listen to the music when it picks up during when they actually maybe start put the horse through and then they start battling and killing and slaughtering everybody. Because right now it sounds like the instruments, even though it's fast paced, it sounds organized like you would expect like an army marching into battle.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, and the song does build up. It crescendos at a point. They're actually, I mean, you're going to hear the song. There is a crescendo. That part right there was Hector being chased by Achilles around the city. Um,
Mm.
it doesn't show it in the movie, but in the original story of the Iliad, Hector is considered to be the bravest man in Troy, but faced against a demigod, he actually buckles and runs away rather than fighting him.
Wouldn't you?
And it's maybe, but it's considered to be one of the most tragic parts of the Iliad because or not, sorry, not the, yeah, it is part of the Iliad, but also is the overall story of Troy because this incredibly brave man who led with honor, he faces his death as a coward simply because he buckled for a few minutes.
Yep.
Um, so basically, that part is Cassandra speaking for Achilles, saying, "Stop running, just stop running. This is fate. It's been decided by the gods. You have to accept your fate."
Yep.
And now it's about to switch very temporarily to Cassandra speaking from Hector's point of view as he dies from his wounds.
Interesting. Okay. So it sounds like he's been killed here, too, or at least wounded.
He's dying.
Mm-hmm.
Pause.
Okay.
Pause. And then back up just a little bit so that you can get to the next part. So that was the entire time. That was Hector speaking to Cassandra.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but every time I hear that part, I get actual goosebumps. Like I have goosebumps right now. And I've heard the song more than a dozen times. I have it on my phone. What'd you think of that part?
Uh, like as she's talking to him while he's dying.
He's talking to her while he's dying.
Well, yeah. Um. Uh. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. What did you take from it?
So it basically it's discussing that he's aware that he's dying in shame.
Yep.
And for him, that means he's going to the netherworld or the
Right.
underworld or Hades. And that's why it's saying it's the triumph of shame and disease, because the disease of fear. And the other world appears. And then he asks her to break the spell and show him the way. In other words, show me how to avoid this fate.
Okay.
So even now, as he's dying, again, this is a vision. She knows he's going to die and he's going to go to the equivalent of Hades or hell because of his fear and his corruption at the last minute. And in the vision, he's begging her to prevent it from happening.
So it's just, I guess, showing more cowardice there.
Right.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
and then of course he says, in the end, it will be the Iliad. In other words, in the end, this is always going to happen.
So is the Iliad,
Um,
is that like basically fate? Is that what it
well, the
translates to?
Iliad is, I don't actually know what Iliad translates to be 100% honest, but I guess the way I read into it or understood it was he's saying in the end, the story of the Iliad is going to happen.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. Every time I hear that part, it gives me chills. I love the lyricism. I love the way the background music kind of plays along with what he's saying. And he also warns her, and it's a prelude to Under the Ice, where it's an icy world. The ferryman will wait for you. He's warning her, even though in this part she doesn't get the vision, she's going to die too, and she's going to drown in an icy sea.
Why
So there
ICC?
is, well, she dies in the ocean during a storm.
Okay.
So there is tons to break down just in this section if you know the story of Troy. And it's just, to me, it's just sung beautifully. It shows the fear very accurately. It shows the understanding that even though you lived a good life, you can't escape your fate. There was just a lot to that part to me, and it gives me chills every time I hear it.
It is funny though how, somebody who displayed bravery and honor for 99.9% of his life, and then 1% did with the demigod, he buckled, and now, because of that one moment of weakness, he's going to hell. That seems maybe not extreme, but I guess in the time where he was needed to display bravery the most, he didn't display it, and that.
Oh, quick pause.
What?
So this is the part that I wanted to speak about last. The flame of Troy is the sword of Troy. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Okay, so the flame of Troy is basically the sword that carries the might of Troy with it. And the story is that as long as the sword of Troy is held by a Trojan, Troy will continue to exist in some form. So he's telling Cassandra in his last breath, the flame of Troy will continue to shine, even though Troy itself is going to fall, which is another hint of Troy becomes Rome.
Hmm.
So that's just one last thing he says before he dies, even though he's dying in dishonor and shame. He is trying to tell his sister there will be hope. It'll just be after we're dead.
I've always wondered how much truth is there in these stories.
I think that Troy was a real city, and I think Troy did fall. Who knows if the people, the refugees fleeing from it, actually helped in the real formation of Rome? That's a hard one to answer, right? Um, but I think a lot of these old fables were tied into reality. So
Yeah. Definitely makes it seem more
okay,
interesting if it's real, or at some point real.
exactly. All right, let's go. Let's get going. Pause. So that was the Judgment of Paris. There was a wrong lyric there. They say, out of three, you've chosen misery. Not out of there, you've chosen misery. Because he was given three choices: power, wisdom, or love.
Love. Right.
Yeah, and he chose love. And what she is saying in this is, Father, you can't let them come back. They're going to bring war. It's going to be the only option if they show up. And then very briefly, and I think probably most tellingly in this song, it switches over to Paris's point of view, and he says, she's the most beautiful thing around. She's more precious than starlight. And he says she will bring a murderous price.
Yep. So even he
So
knows something's
he
gonna
says,
happen.
well, again, this is a vision, but implies he knows what the cost of his choice is going to be. He just doesn't care.
Hmm.
So it's a different twist. I don't think the original story ever told it that way, but that's the story of the Judgment of Paris. He chose to pick Helen. He chose to go through with it, and of course, there's the darkest side of it of she didn't get a choice to love him. She was made to love him.
It also mentions newborn. What are they talking about there?
So it sets the timeline of this story. She's had the vision when Paris was born.
Oh, okay.
So she's basically telling her father in this part, you should kill him when he's born rather than let him live.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah. So it gets pretty dark. Although I love the lyric, the seed of man's defeat is sown, jealousy. I can clearly see the end now because both Paris and the king from Greece are jealous of each other's love for Helen.
yep.
And you can see that neither of them is going to care. War is going to be the only choice. I love that part.
Well,
Carrying on.
carrying on the wayward son.
Pause.
Is this when the Trojan horse is coming into the city now in the vision?
This this is about to be that. That part there was actually Achilles going on his rampage. As the lion slaughters lamb, I'm the wolf. Or as the lion slaughters lamb, I'm the wolf, and you're the man.
I was thinking like that could be Greece versus Troy, but I guess that could be Achilles versus Trojans in general.
It is Achilles going on his rampage around the outside walls of Troy. So in the Iliad, Achilles actually dies before Troy falls. That's something they modified in the movie. Achilles never made it to Troy
Okay.
because part of the point of the story is his own rage. Even though he became the hero of the story, or depending on which way you see it, the villain of the story, his own hubris, his own rage, his own anger got him killed before the story even ended.
Hmm.
So the movie took some liberties, but this is about to be the Trojan horse part of the story. I just want to say that was what that part was about. It was about the Trojans begging the gods to please be on their side, and then Achilles comes in and murders everybody, and it says, faith is shattered, see the bodies fall, because Achilles kills off the vast majority of their army and forces them back into their city.
Hmm. Okay.
And
Shit.
the gods are not on your side, so that's kind of what that part's saying. All right.
I feel that some surprise, they're gone. Your time goes by, and you move still kept out of sight. We live misty tales and
quick pause. So we don't have much time left, so this is just a very quick statement. Do you notice how it flipped what Hector said to her as her saying it now?
But like decay?
Well, she's begging for the spell to be broken. With Hector, it was him begging her to break the spell so that he could live and he could keep his honor. Now it's her begging the gods, please break the spell, show me the way, I want to prevent this.
Right.
But
I did pick up on
obviously they
that.
won't. Yeah, so obviously they won't do that. But I just wanted to point that out. And yes, the something's wrong, surprise, surprise, they're gone, is the Trojan army has left. She knows something's wrong, even in her vision, but she doesn't know what it is.
Hmm.
So carry on. Pause. So that was the Trojan horse being found. They've welcomed the old foe with blossoms. Cassandra's figured out what's happening. Again, this is only her vision. It's not like it's happening right now. But she's saying, oh my God, they're going to welcome in the enemy with blossoms. They're going to tear down our only defense. They're going to bring them in. And this part in the song, you can hear how happy it sounds.
Yep.
They're literally celebrating around the horse and saying, come dance with us, come sing with us. And you can hear the tragedy in Cassandra's voice saying, the vision's so clear. What's about to happen? But no one will listen to me.
Well, it sounds like they're rejoicing in the fact that they're sending this horse in as like a token of like goodwill and trying to like a ceasefire kind of thing.
Yeah, and in the original story, what it was the Trojan horse was a sacrifice to the gods for goodwill, for safe passage. And basically what the Trojans assumed was the Greeks would like us to bring this to our temple so that they can have safe passage back home, and we will honor that because it's a tribute to the gods.
Right.
So they voluntarily brought the Trojan horse in as a sign of goodwill and honor and celebrated their own survival, and we all know what's about to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right here in the context where it says the disease and triumph of shame, is that because the Greeks kind of forsake or forsook what the actual meaning of the Trojan horse was to mislead the Trojans to get in there to kill them all?
Yes, I would say that would be a good way to interpret this part. There's the chorus, I guess would be the way to say it. The part that they repeat 3 times gets
Yep.
changed each time somewhat for its meaning,
Yes.
but it's telling a different point each time it does it. And I would say that's a good way to interpret this part. Yes.
That's kind of cool. This the change. It basically changes the chorus every time. First time it's
Exactly.
Helen to Hector. Next it's Hector to Helen, or vice versa, actually, maybe. And then this is
Cassandra. But yes.
Cassandra. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Right.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So this has got to be where Cassandra's got this vision in her head that she can't get out of her mind, and she knows what's going to happen when Paris gets home, and she can't do anything to stop it.
Yes. And I love the visual of Father, your handsome son is headed home, but still the wind blows, calm and silent.
Yep, as in like the future, like the what's going to happen is going to happen still.
Yep. And it's so far away that there's no hint of it in reality, right?
Yep. Hmm.
I love that. I love the visuals in the song. The visual storytelling is stunning. But anyways, sorry, we should wrap this up, so I'll let it play out. So what did you think?
Oh man. It's funny. While this song was playing, I actually favorited them on Spotify, and my plan is during the work week to actually give some of, if not most of their tracks a listen.
Do me a favor. Now that you've heard the song, save Under the Ice for when me and you can review it together.
What album's that on? Is that Beyond the Red Mirror?
I think Under the Ice is on the same album as this. I think it's on A Night at the Orchestra.
Okay.
But Beyond the Red Mirror is also fantastic. I would highly recommend Twilight of the Gods, Miracle Machine, and The Ninth Wave.
Yeah, so I know at least, and then there was Silence and Under the Ice were on A Night at the Opera.
A Night at the Opera. Gosh, I knew that, and I said Night at the Orchestra. But yes, I did know that.
Yep.
Um,
Ah, that was an awesome song. It merges really good music with mythology, which is two things that I've always loved.
oh, absolutely. So you were impressed with it.
Yeah. I was actually taken I was like, oh my God, 14-minute song. I haven't listened to one of those in a long time, but it was nice. It was like you're not watching a story, but like listening to a story being told.
And did you like the point of view of Cassandra? Did you like that added sense of doom of this isn't actually happening right now, but there's nothing she can do about it?
Yeah, I guess it strikes me as weird that she is a character because she was omitted from the movie Troy. That's I guess what a lot of I'm harkening back to is that movie. But
Right.
it's interesting that that character exists because I mean the fact that she knows all but can't change anything means that her omission from the movie could work because she didn't do anything. She's someone that knows it's going to happen.
Right. And I think it could have been put down because I still interpret this when I read these stories as the wise female who uses logic ignores things like beauty, ignores things like honor and things like, male ego and pride, which is what the Iliad's all about. And again, the Iliad's only about a small portion of the war for Troy, but it basically is saying like the women of the story use their brains instead of their ego and their I don't want to use the phrase toxic masculinity, but they used logic, they used intelligence, they knew what was going to happen and no one listened to them. And I
Yes.
think that could have been tied into the movie quite well, but it wasn't, so it is what it is.
I think if it was made today, it probably would have been.
Included, yeah, I agree.
Nice. Well, we should definitely have to do Under the Ice sometime soon. That would be great.
Yeah, and I would love to do the Ninth Wave with you as well. Now, the Ninth Wave is not about a true story, so you could also listen to it on your own. But just let me know. I would say save Under the Ice for me and you. I think you would be entertained by it, and I think me kind of escorting you along through the story like I did this one would probably make it interesting for you as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try and leave that. If I end up dancing around it too long, I might get really interested.
Sounds fair to me. It is one of those songs that, again, you'll need to read the lyrics as you listen to it, just like this song. You'll appreciate it far more if you're reading along to what's being said.
Right.
Okay. Aegis, do you have any more you wanted to add? I'm glad you enjoyed it on my end.
I would say that if you do like metal or melodic metal and mythology, or just good storytelling, check these guys out, Blind Guardian.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, guys. We're cutting to silence now.
And then there was silence.